Good morning, Mr. Inslee, Miss Pritchard, Miss Moss, Miss Allen, and all concerned. It is to my understanding that you yet again want to move my son James to another facility, which will undoubtedly cause a grave amount of stress and anxiety, adding to the acute anxiety issues he already has, being that he's on the autism spectrum. It's quite ironic how things now have come full circle, and the challenges that we faced as a family getting James connected to the proper, adequate services in Cleveland County was already a challenge, on top of the fact that the Department of Social Services in Cleveland County refused to provide any information, even so much as a phone number or a reference sheet for customers or clients to refer to on their own. Now, it's amazing and ironic to me how you are now currently standing in the same shoes as myself, James, and his brother Ben, after surviving a hurricane, being evacuated 3 hours away from everything you know, after living in a state and relocating to a state where you have absolutely no support system at all. This is where taxpayers and citizens turn to agencies such as social services for a hand up, for the provisions to create and provide the basic necessities of human life, not to have their whole entire family and everything they know and who everything they are familiar with to be destroyed, dismantled, and taken as insignificant when families are in need. We all can see the clear-cut violation of our human rights, our constitutional rights, and the rights that protect my son James as a disabled person in this country. And what's even more deplorable is no one in your department wants to take accountability for the mess that you have created of our family and our lives to current date. But as I sit here and I watch things go full circle, and everything that I stated originally as of May 2017 is still true and accurate to date. James did not need 24-hour supervision. James had no use for being observed 24 hours a day. He has sat being held against his will since September 22nd, 2017 for absolutely no reason other than Tom Inslee having control issues and the abuse of his authority as a supervisor of adult protective services in Cleveland County. James has expressed multiple times over he would like to return home with his family to continue his dreams and aspirations in computer engineering and to live with the people that he loves and trusts the most. Now, based on everything that we know up to this point, the cognitive dissonance is screaming very loudly. And it's obvious that neither administration or staff have an explanation as to why this is occurring. Why all of a sudden move James to another facility just weeks before his petition to restore his competency? You know, this staff has displayed the most incompetency if I had to compare between my son and the social services staff. I would say the winner, the award would go to social services for the most acute incompetency, obstinance, and obstructionism that I have ever seen from a professional government agency and the workers within it. This is deliberate abuse of authority, and it is exploiting my son James as a disabled person, using him as a vice, a tool of manipulation to further prolong his stay under the custody and care against his will with social services in Cleveland County. Now, as far as the vocational programs, being that James is in Rutherfordton County, and not Grover, not Cleveland County, not Shelby. He was placed in that county far, far away, purposely, so that it would be more difficult to locate him. And it appears that you have made things more difficult for social services to conduct their job duties when it concerns my son James. Because now you have to locate vocational services that are not equipped for James' level of functioning in that area or in the greater Cleveland County area, because prior to James' removal from his home, we already had him connected to the appropriate program that was suitable for his level of functioning and his intellect until we were prepared to take the next step to move him to Texas so he could attend Non-Pareil Institute, which is an accredited special needs technical school, college, institution of higher learning. Now, my point has been proven time and time again that nobody is an expert on the care and maintenance and what is best for my son than me, his mother, his parent. And let me remind you that I am the only parent he has left. Not that is of any consequence to you and your staff, because clearly you have no human compassion or any empathy for James, what he's going through, or for what you've caused among my family by ripping one of its members from the group. But James and his brother lost their father at a very young age. And he had a very close bond with his father, just like he has a very close bond with me, his mother. And for you to take these extreme measures to place him back in an environment in which there are no services appropriate for his level of functioning and intellect is beyond deplorable and doing a huge disservice to his future and his growth and development, of which I have worked very hard all of his life to overcome every milestone that was set before him. Every person who stated that he would never do anything for himself, let alone attend college. And those very same people and so-called professionals I have proven wrong. James has proven wrong. And we're here to prove social services of Cleveland County wrong as well. It looks like we already have. Because as I sit and observe you and your staff, Tom Inslee, scrambling to cover up the ethical violations, the human right violations, and constitutional violations that have been grossly performed against my son and my family. It's clear and evident that the incompetent people are the ones who claim to be the professionals and expert at dealing with disabled adults. What's even more disgusting is how, with being fully aware of felonious activity, your staff and fellow members of social service, DSS, and adult protective service staff members are complicit in any accountability for how my son has been mistreated and how our family has been disrespected. It's really a form of narcissism. No accountability, the inability to take ownership when you are proven to be 100% in the wrong. No acknowledgement of your own wrongdoing. And you take a person's unfortunate situation and use it against them, all for gaining satisfaction with power and control and dominance, which is abuse of authority. So, my point has been made. You're standing in the same exact shoes as we were back December 2015 when we first arrived in Shelby, North Carolina at the Value Place, where we had to practically beg for help and information to assist us according to the dynamic of our family. It was no secret that James has autism. And we asked multiple times for information to point us in the correct direction, in the right direction for services that we qualify for. And social services in Cleveland County dropped the ball and refused to assist us as a family. From December all the way up until May, no one would give us helpful and useful information. not even a phone number. Everything that we accomplished was through the help of outside Cleveland County or agencies that were not connected to social services, all but the Adventure House and Monarch and Partners Behavioral and Mental Health Agency, because that happens to be one of the only 3 in that area, which is acutely underdeveloped when it comes to IDD and PDD disabilities. So now you want to uproot my son after he's finally gotten somewhat comfortable living with strangers. You want to place him in another facility and uproot everything that he has tried to grown accustomed to, and further terrorize and torment and agitate his anxiety by moving him again after everything he has been through. I just really don't understand your logic. And to be professionals and allegedly educated in this field, it's just really not making any sense according to the best interest of James. It's clearly the best interest of what makes your job easier. So I'm just informing you again because clearly you feel that I have no clue what I am talking about when it comes to my son, and I have no knowledge of what's best for him and what will affect him in a positive or negative way. So maybe now, finally, you're willing to understand and comprehend that simple fact that nobody can take care of a child better than their parent, whether they're an adult or whether they're a minor. I'm an expert on James and what he needs and what his dreams are, what's reasonable and what's logical and what's practical. I raised him alone, by myself, with his siblings, all his life. So for you to try to alienate the closeness that we have as mother and son, that too goes on the record as one of the most deplorable acts that you can do as a civil servant. And it's clear that ethics, morals, principles, and the value of family when it comes to indigenous people, when it comes to black people, it holds no value to you. You have no respect for the family unit. Because if you did, you would have worked with us to try to keep us together, as I stress that to Miss Megan Carskadden, as well as to Miss Shelley Snyder, as well as to Mr. Tom Inslee, who is the author of this confusion, who forced his hand to remove my son from his family where he feels the most safe and secure. And just like the other incident with the phone calls and altering the scheduling of phone calls, we have had this ongoing problem with Miss Moss, who can't seem to get her act together and remember the same phone number that she's been using for the past 2 to 3 months to contact me so James can have his right to make phone calls to his family with whom he feels the most comfortable. Clearly, James is not happy there. But for whatever reason, Mr. Inslee wants to continue to hold James there against his will. And Mr. Inslee seems to feel like he knows better than I do what's best educationally and any other genre of care for James than his own mother. And we clearly can see that that's not true. You failed in all areas trying to compete with information and knowledge that I have concerning my son, his care, and his well being, both mentally and physically. So nobody can define for me what proper care is for my son better than I can. And if it's in James' best interest, then creating more anxiety, creating more stress, creating more fear and doubt and lack of trust by moving him again to yet another strange environment when he has a home, he has a family, and he was building a life transitioning over into higher education, preparing to attend college, when social services and Tom Inslee decided to take drastic action and illegally adjudicate James incompetent. So James would like to remain where he is until his trial. He has expressed it. His lawyer has expressed it. And now I'm going to express it. And if I have to express it every day until the trial date to get him to be left alone after everything he has been exposed to under the care of social services, knife wielding, physical violence, verbal abuse, neglect, walking around with holes in his shoes for weeks and months at a time. Yet somehow you feel your agency can provide better care, or the proper care in the words of Tom Inslee, providing proper care for my son when he never was exposed to any of those situations when he lived at home with his family, especially the violence, and especially the tattered, worn, holy footwear. It's unfathomable how much hatred is seething beneath the surface among you individuals when it's time to provide a service for a minority. I can feel the energy through the phone, and when I would come into the office repeatedly asking for help, I felt it. And each and every person I came in contact with, I could tell which one was stuck in the mindset of a Confederate racist, and I can tell those that are not or were not racist. So we all know why Mr. Inslee took it this far. We all know why Miss Pritchard wants to blame the courts and say the courts were annoyed. Oh, we know who was annoyed at our exit from Cleveland County. We all know who that annoyed, and it wasn't the courts. We all know who pushed the agenda for James to be extradited back to Cleveland County, to an area in which was deemed not appropriate amount of services available for people on the autism spectrum with intellectual disability. So it's just a vicious, useless waste of time, a cycle that you have created ongoing for the past 6 to 7 months with absolutely no justifiable logical explanation. You stepped in your own pile of manure, and now you're trying to clean it up at the expense of James and my family. And we don't appreciate it at all. So again, because I know you all have that streak of being obstinate. So let me repeat for you one more time. James would like to remain in the facility that he's housed in now until his trial date. He would like a fair hearing of due process, which he was not given the opportunity in May of last year. This was all done under a rush, speedy process to use our unfortunate circumstances and extenuating circumstances of homelessness against us so that you could house James and collect another human body and traffic the disabled into these facilities to collect federal dollars. And what's even more despicable is the higher-ups that Shelley Snyder refers to, Hank Bowers at the Division of Aging and Adult Services in Raleigh, would rather turn his head to these deplorable violations of human rights than hold you accountable and speak against the mistreatment and neglect of disabled adults by social service workers. It's really sick and disgusting for any group, any government agency to get away with discrimination of any kind. So the next time you underestimate a Black woman and her children and her family, the next time you try to water down and dilute a disabled person's dreams and goals and aspiration to be great, to be something great, you want to stick him in disability-only vocational programs. James has completed several vocational programs in high school. And he has evolved beyond vocational programs. It, in essence, dumbs him down. Which is why, as his mother, I went on a quest to find something more challenging. That's what autism is about. You're supposed to challenge their comfort zone and expand it. You're supposed to strengthen their positive attributes and also enhance their weaknesses to help them grow and teach them self-sufficiency and independence. And what you're doing is creating him to have an environment and a mindset that it's okay to be complicit. It's okay to do just what's good enough. It's okay to digress and go backwards. So, had you assisted us and gave us the correct information to connect up with a referral to the Target Key program and any other services that were available in Shelby and the surrounding areas of Grover, we could have been out of your hair and on our way on the road to recovery from surviving homelessness due to a natural disaster. It's amazing how the white folks in that town were able to get assistance who had experienced the exact same thing my family did. But when it came to my family, we didn't get the same respect and treated with the same dignity. We were harassed by local police. We were profiled time and time again. And social services placed false allegations of neglect on myself and my brother and James's younger brother when we were traveling from point A to point B, walking through town, trying to put the pieces of our lives back together. I really don't see how this group of people who work for Cleveland County can sleep at night knowing what damage you are doing to my son, to his psyche, his level of trust, and his passion for learning, his passion for computers, his passion for technology. You want to dumb him down and stick him in a vocational program. The ideal thing to do is just acknowledge the fact that that area is not equipped to accommodate the training and therapy and work that it takes to create a future for James in the computer engineering field of study. You're not equipped to manage people that are high functioning on the autism spectrum. You don't have the programming available in that area. It is a poor area, and you're taking advantage of the poor, and you're creating devastatingly excruciating problems for families who are trying to put their lives back together and legitimately move forward toward healing. So again, I repeat, James' wishes are to stay in the facility in which he is. He has given me permission to speak on his behalf. His lawyer has shared with you the same thing. He is not willing to move. He doesn't want to be in the facility he's in currently. He wants to come home so he can go attend college and live his dreams, just like any other college student his age would like to do. He has the opportunity to do it. And it's always white America criticizing black males for being non-productive members of society. Now we have a young man who is aspiring to be something, and you are trying to clip his wings and change his mind and dumb him down because you dislike his mother's behavior and the truth that she speaks as a militant Native American woman, a parent, a mother. So in closing, I'm going to remind you again that James' wishes are to be honored because it is his right to remain in the facility in which he is currently and not to be uprooted and moved again and traumatized and excite his anxiety again, because the next step will be you telling me that you want to again alter contact with me based on the nature of how our conversations are. Just always passing the buck and pointing the finger. So now it's on you. James is not willing to move. He's not willing to live in a different facility. And he's not interested in a vocational program or community college. So what's really deplorable is how you're trying to change his mind from wanting to attend the college that he's dreamed of since he was a senior in high school. We have been planning this major life-changing event for years, to have strangers come into our lives and try to dismantle everything that we built, everything that we done to try to repair the damage of Matthew and the devastation that we've experienced going through that hurricane. So you haven't heard the end of it. You haven't heard the last from me. And I will be forwarding this video to the local newspapers, media, news stations, and everywhere that we can think of to bring exposure to my son's situation and being held in your department's custody against his will. This is the end of this stream. Stay tuned for more.